So I've always wondered what it would be like to use a 32:9 super ultra wide 5K display like this for my own workflow, editing videos, photos, Excel charts, and also just for casual browsing. Was I going to unlock some insane productivity potential, or was this just going to be too large and awkward to use? So today I'm going to share my thoughts on the Dell U4919DW and specifically where a super ultra wide monitor like this can be really useful and when perhaps you should just get something a bit smaller. So at the moment, I'm swapping between two displays, the 25-inch 240Hz Alienware 2518HF for gaming, and the 34-inch ultrawide Acer Predator for pretty much everything else, including video editing. Since using an ultrawide for editing and video production, I honestly cannot go back to a standard 16:9 display unless it is for gaming. And one of the reasons for that is that I'm able to keep a lot more panels open, since I have a lot of extra screen real estate. This means that I'm able to compose and edit a video without switching to different tabs in Premiere Pro, which makes for an overall faster edit. Now, before we get to the additional screen real estate of a 32:9 ultrawide and my personal experience, here's a quick size comparison against my 34-inch ultrawide and my 25-inch esports gaming monitor. And yep, you'll need a ton of space for this monitor. I'd consider my desk here to be pretty big, and even then it doesn't have pretty much any space on either side. So it's massive, but you guys already knew that. What I really appreciate though about the design is the stand. It's very similar to the traditional Dell stand that's used amongst most of their monitors, but just widened and lengthened a little bit to of course accommodate that much bigger panel. I much prefer this over the big legs that monitors seem to be having these days. They're just unnecessarily large and end up taking even more space on your desk. It is VESA compatible too though, so if you do have a strong enough mount for this monitor, feel free to use that instead. You are a bit limited in terms of the degree of adjustability. For example, height adjustment is about 9 centimeters, tilt adjustment is actually quite good, but no swivel adjustment. Personally, I never found any of these to be a real issue when using the monitor, and I actually like the fact that it doesn't have swivel, as I get that extra peace of mind having the panel perfectly lined up 100% of the time. The rest of the monitor has a really minimal design, which is always appreciated, a matte grey finish covering most of the surface, and there is a cable management hole in the stand to keep things nice and tidy. Bezels are relatively thin, but I've definitely seen thinner. Thankfully, the chin bezel is fairly reserved though. Display inputs are extensive enough to HDMI 2.0, one DisplayPort 1.4, and a USB-C port. Now let's talk briefly about the color, and I found that for whatever reason, the color temperature on my U4919DW sample was incredibly cool, making the crucial white point a bit biased towards blue. The standard picture profile had the color temperature measured at over 7600 Kelvin, but after tweaking the custom color RGB sliders a couple notches, I was able to bring that down to an almost perfect target of 6500 Kelvin. Proceeding with this lightly tweaked monitor profile, we can take a look at the color accuracy, where I found sRGB to be pretty strong at about 98%, but Adobe RGB coverage was quite a bit lower than expected at 74.2%. So for professional video editing, this monitor won't give you the best results. For someone like me though, I found this to be absolutely fine. Overall, color accuracy is very similar to the IPS panel on my Acer X34 Predator, and I can almost say that with certainty because the most recent videos that I've edited seem to be lining up with color in terms of the ones before it. I do wish that the curve on the 49-inch ultrawide was slightly more aggressive though. It's 3800R here, which is a bit shallow for a panel this wide. This means that if you do have content off to the edges of the display, you're definitely going to have to be moving your head around. Resolution is a monster 5120 by 1440, so essentially if you were to put two 1440p panels side by side, that would be the exact same pixel real estate. The panel is limited to 60 Hz, and if you were wondering if this could double as a gaming monitor, the answer is kind of. Not only is the resolution extremely hard to drive and the 60 Hz limit not ideal, but this aspect ratio is not properly supported in many games anyway. I did play a couple rounds of Apex Legends, and although I had a huge smile on my face just due to how wacky this felt, it's definitely not something that I'd recommend as a primary gaming display. You're much better off with a 16:9 display or 21:9 display if you really want to game at that aspect ratio. Perhaps for racing games and open world games this could work quite well, but other than that, probably not. That's okay though, because this definitely is not advertised as a gaming monitor. Now, one of the reasons that I was so curious and excited to try this 49-inch super ultra-wide monitor was for my own personal use. I wanted to see whether this would be a substantial upgrade from my 34-inch standard ultra-wide 21:9 monitor. And I can say that after using the 49-inch monitor for about a week and then going back to the 34-inch ultrawide, I definitely did miss that additional screen real estate. Even on the 34-inch display, I do sometimes feel like I'm compromising on the width of some editing panels in Premiere Pro, whereas on the 49-inch, I was able to view a lot more video files at a single time, adjust effect controls a lot quicker, and of course, view a lot more of my timeline at once. When color grading, I was able to fine-tune things a bit better, again, due to being able to stretch the panels a little bit larger. Having said that, I don't think that I was able to edit videos any faster on the 49-inch super ultrawide compared to my standard 34-inch ultrawide, despite being able to see a lot more of my project at once. The big thing here for a super ultrawide monitor is actually multitasking, and I was easily able to view 5 windows at once if I wanted, but I'll be honest, I mostly averaged around 3 or 4. I will say that it is very easy to get distracted by those additional windows, just something to keep in mind. In summary, you can keep view of a lot more tasks and applications at once on a display like this, but unless it's serious work, then it's easy to get distracted. So is this the ultimate productivity monitor? Well, that depends what you're going to be doing on it. If you're a stock trader, for example, absolutely. You'll be able to view a lot more graphs and in better detail as well. If you're someone who otherwise needs 5 windows open at the same time in full view, then yes, again. For video editors like myself, I will say that a 5K super ultrawide monitor is something that I can live without. It's no doubt an upgrade from my 34-inch ultrawide, just not a real significant one. I don't really need to see hundreds of video files at once, and I don't really need to see my entire video timeline at once either. But an improvement is an improvement, and given the choice, I would pick this over a standard 34-inch ultrawide if I had the choice. 5K ultrawides like this one are very specific monitors, just like a 240Hz gaming monitor is a very specific monitor targeted to a very specific audience. So definitely consider whether this is something that you actually need or whether you might be better off with something a little bit smaller. As always guys, a huge thanks for watching. Consider subscribing down below if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one.